Hello and welcome to West Underground. Today we have Bad Moon Born and they're joining us, and we're just going to have a chat and find out. I'm not as familiar with you guys as Paul is, so I'm hoping to learn a little bit during this interview and come out with a new sense of a new appreciation for a Sydney band that I'm not too familiar with currently. So I just wanted to ask you guys to start it off, let's go right back to the start. How did you guys put a band together? And, what's been the evolution process, I suppose?
I'd assume I should start that one because Jordan came into
definitely.
it late. Pretty much, I'm going to summarize it massively. We were in high school together. We all just saw a band covering System of a Down and we were like, that's cool. So we started doing that. And then literally just learned from there and just kept going, doing shitty band comps as much as we could. Then from there progressed to other sort of gigs around the Sydney circuit. Then we just kept going through that. Went around Australia a bit and all that, went overseas, and then had a massive shift because everyone grows up eventually. Like everyone's paths in life change and that. And then Jordan was the right man from the job from there. And then from there, it got a bit more detailed in, say the way, fuck, I don't even know what I'm on about anymore. All right, do you want me to elaborate a bit more on the earlier stuff or?
Yeah, well, I've just learned that it's your birthday today, which happy birthday. And also that you said you were 30. So I imagine there's an evolution of when you can kind of go out and play gigs from the ages of 18 to, to your current age now. So I'm just wondering and you covered some quite interesting things there. Like you've been overseas and, you've done a bit of touring around Australia. So I imagine there's a process of you get together with I don't know if you've had a couple different name changes along the way with your group now and, different members and, it seems like you've reached, a little bit of success. So I feel like there's a lot little things to touch on there.
There's a few. It's kind of been a blur to me. It's just something that's, I don't know, put all the time into it, and it just kind of keeps going at this fast pace. And then when I look back, I'm like, shit, actually quite a bit's happened.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, from the early stuff, from high school to playing gigs was really just being persistent. And then from that level, we didn't even release that much music, which was something that we probably should have done, but we just kept gigging a lot around the same circuits and whatever, and then got some opening slots. And I think when we went overseas was when it kind of opened up a lot. We just we found a producer overseas that we liked and just dove into that. We put heaps of money into that, went over, did an EP with him, did some showcases in America, played around, did the Viper and Whiskey and all those sort of venues around the way. And then when we came back, I think that's when people took us more, people took us serious, but that was I think the next step after. Then we got a lot more of international opening slots here.
Yeah. And
during that time of the internet, I think that's when we started getting quite a bit of momentum, and that's when the band the singer left at that time.
Yeah.
And then that's when Jordan came in, and I think it's gotten a lot more organized and a lot more serious and focused since that point.
Yeah. And Jordan, what's been your kind of journey through this?
So I sort of, started playing just around the Sydney pub circuit when I was 18 in a couple of different bands, just sort of like pub rock and that kind of stuff. And I was actually aware of the guys in Bad Moon Born who used to be called Rattlesnake back in those days.
Yeah.
And they kind of had this, big air of mysticism around them because they're all really young guys, but they're all just stupidly talented and really tight as a band. So sort of, coming through that circuit, I was quite aware of them. And then we ended up playing a couple of shows together. And I think, Devorah and I became quite good friends, I think, in our early 20s or something like that. And we're just sort of aware of what each other was doing. And then the band sort of redefined themselves as Bad Moon Born in about 2015. And I think got Ned on. And then they did a couple of EPs, and then the singer and the bass player left, and that's sort of around the time I came in. And then about a year later, we got Shane, the new bass player, in. But my sort of journey throughout that was I just really love music, and I wanted to experience as much of it as I can. So I was kind of singing in multiple different bands across multiple different genres, and it was sort of this, I don't know, big joke around my friends group that, Jordan's got a new band. I think I was singing for about 5 different bands in like 2018 or something ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
But I just really enjoyed the creative process and wanted to learn as much about music as I could, and felt that the best way for me to do that was to just dive in and do as much as I could in as short amount of the time as I could. And I sort of learned a lot, and had a couple of lessons in classical vocal training for a few years in my early 20s. And then I was actually touring with my own band, who had just released a selection of singles back in 2019. And I think when I got back from the first singles tour, Voya actually hit me up and asked if I wanted to have a chat about potentially doing something. And that ended up being that Frank, the original singer, had left, and he was wanting to know if I wanted to come in on board as the new singer and go through the audition process. And having known the guys for a really long time, and really enjoyed what they'd done over the course of the period that they'd been active, I was more than happy to jump in and have a go. And it went really well. And 2 years later we're here. So
Oh, wow. So did you kind of just, like, you would have joined before lockdown and all this kind of stuff, so did you get to kind of go overseas with the band and like do a bit of traveling through Australia? Did you get a little bit of that before we kind of went to where we are now?
So I didn't go overseas with the band, but when I joined, they had a national tour booked with Buckcherry and Hardcore Superstar for October, and I think I joined in August.
Oh, wow.
So it was very much, hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So literally did it, learnt all the songs, and then flew out to Perth a couple of months later to start the tour, and that was a massive highlight of my experience, just coming through the scene, and as a singer and musician, that was a really, really incredible experience. And we all had a lot of fun, and I think we all grew really close as a band together through that experience. And meeting the Buckcherry dudes and Hardcore guys, they were just so much fun to hang out with, and a really cool bunch of dudes. So seeing as well like how bands at that level do stuff was really eye-opening, and I think definitely helped pave the way for sort of what we're doing now, and kind of just how we're thinking about everything.
Yeah. How do bands on like higher levels operate? That's very different from kind of younger groups. What is the big difference in attitude, I suppose?
I think it's everything's a lot more well thought out. I think when you're a younger band and you're hungry, you're chomping at the bit and wanting to get into as much as you can and trying a bunch of new things, and there's that kind of you're sort of jumping the gun a lot. And I feel like bands at that level have kind of passed that initial excitement phase and have moved more into that sort of critical thinking process phase. And they've obviously found, the right processes for them through years and years of doing that. So even though we're, still, I guess you could say, a relatively young band in terms of what we're doing now, in terms of the new shift and stuff like that, having the opportunity to observe what they were doing at that higher level definitely made us go, okay, hang on, let's stop, think, and plan this out properly. Because, like, for instance, at the start of the year, we developed this plan to release 5 singles throughout the year, which I think, beforehand, we might have just released them willy-nilly and been like, fuck, let's just try and get, as much as attention from this as possible in the shortest amount of time, instead of developing a solid plan to follow. And that's really helped us so far. So that was really great. And also just seeing how, they've got whole entire production teams. So you get a lot of ideas from that. And it's a really well-oiled machine by the time bands like that come over and tour Australia. So we definitely picked up a lot of knowledge. yeah, it was a really exciting time. But yeah, we learned a lot, so that was a real highlight.
Wow, that's interesting, and I hope that some people that are rewatch this that are younger in bands currently like take on a little bit of that advice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And now, Paul, you're still in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to jump in. I was just
Ah.
going to say, just to touch on the planning, because I know, Jordan, you're with Badminton Bonnie, also Chimera as well, and have always done a lot of different projects. Do you guys, like, is there a way to keep like projects in different bands? Like, if you want to make a song Chimera, is that a different thought process with Badminton Born? Like, is it two different processes because of two different style of music as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, like in Badminton Born, for instance, like Voyer will come to the band with like a song that's sort of like 70 to 80% done. He'll flesh out all the instrumentals and sort of get it to the demo ready. And then we'll sit down and work out, the vocal melodies and lyrics together and record it. And Voyer also produces all of our stuff as well now. So he's sort of, behind a lot of the songwriting, the production and the mixing. And then sort of I do all the grizzly shit like the PR and the liaising with third parties like video creators and all that shit. So I feel like we've got
important things. That's definitely one thing. As like a younger band, you forget about how important that like keeping your socials organized, keeping just emailing people in general and all those contacts. That's like the stuff you're doing.
And just how important like marketing and PR are. Yeah.
Because on both bands' Instagram, you always see Jordan as a main guy. I'm like, come on, give someone else a go. It's always he's the main guy. I know he's a vocalist, but he's the icon. It's a good. There's nothing wrong with it.
Thanks, man. But yeah, with Chimera, for instance, like I write a lot of the music for that.
Good, yeah.
So it's like I absolutely love it because I get to kind of do a lot of my songwriting and I guess creative direction through Chimera, and then with Badminton Born I just get to do sort of vocal melody writing, lyrics, and then the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm kind of, I guess, operating two separate roles in each band, so to speak. But it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing it. And I mean, I've always sort of said if you want to do it bad enough, you'll find the time to do it. So it doesn't really clash too much for me. But
on the topic of like different projects, I saw you guys at the Crowbar for that charity gig. It was a great night. It was amazing. Everyone was there, and Voyer was like in legit every second song, and he just nailed everything. What's the experience of just playing with other great talent on stage and just having fun? It must be a great experience playing with Blake and the Wicked Things boys and all that. Because I saw Jordan sing "Still in the Night," and I was like, holy shit! I was at the front, and like, yes. And that song was living rent free for 2 weeks, and you came on sung. I'm like, oh shit, I know this song. I'm like, yes.
That's mad.
It must be a good experience playing with other great talent as well. How did you guys think of it?
I used to be in a band. I don't know if you remember Vanity Riots, but me and Blake were in that together.
Oh yes, I saw it. Yeah, it was a small world.
He's awesome. He's like, there's certain musicians I think you reach a level eventually, because the way I started playing with different people out of high school, I just started. I think it was called the Drum Magazine or some shit, Drum Media. Can't remember. That was a while. But
I remember Drum Media.
I used to just find cover bands and just go rehearse with them, like random ones, like drive an hour away and rehearse with like any band I could. And then I'd do all these shitty gigs that I wouldn't get paid for, but I'd play with like 50 different people that year or more. And that really taught me that you can't rely on anyone except learning all your parts back to front, and then that kind of eliminates all the stress you have. And if you play with other people you trust that have learned their parts like that, you don't even have to rehearse together. You just rock up, but that's a big trust thing.
Yeah, that night everyone was tight that night. Everyone just knew each other's roles, and it was even like when you guys were
everyone was just
changing musicians. It was just Even when everyone was changing musicians at the time, it was just a smooth transfer, like plugging different guitars in, bass, and even the drummers changed as well. It was just a perfect. It was like, I don't think you guys even practiced for that. You just jumped on,
Yeah,
just went
no,
into it. It was such a good night. It was such a good
there was
night.
no rehearsal for that. But I
No.
mean, I think something that really helped as well was the fact that we're all quite good mates and we're all aware of each other's bands. So we kind of have already built that chemistry to be able to feed off each other on the
Yeah.
stage.
And
So
you're
it was
playing your
a lot
favorite
of
song
fun.
as well. You're playing your
Yeah,
favorite
yeah,
songs from
exactly.
childhood, so it wasn't, you learned them 10 years ago. Your first
Yeah.
song was your favorite. Yeah, that was good. On
And
your
there was one song, sorry. There was one song that I think the Deftones one I haven't played with anyone that was like I met two of the people that were in the band like on the stage and then played it and it was just that was probably the tightest one for me. That was like, this is fucking rare. I can't believe this was the tightest one.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that moment. Yeah, that was a good night.
And
yeah, that was
shout
good.
out to Emmy for that.
Emmy. Yeah, gosh, she's amazing.
She
Her and Red Hook. Her and Red Hook are such a great band.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard
sorry,
the cover. Sorry.
I apologize. I cut you off.
Yeah. So I reckon this is like the best cover of all time. You guys did this song by Billie Eilish, "Bad Guy," and it was like the greatest cover I've ever heard. Who thought of that? Who thought of that? Was that your vocals, Jordan?
So Voya actually originally pitched it, I think.
I think Nick did.
Oh, Nick, the old bass player.
That's right. I kind of pushed for a Halsey song. I think I wanted. I can't remember which Halsey.
It was like Nightmare or something like that.
Someone else covered it with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Nick suggested, and we were like, "Yeah, let's do it," and that's it.
But that was quite a funny one because we we recorded that like I think maybe September 2019 or something ridiculous, and then we shot the clip for it in February, and we were just like wanting to release it immediately, and then our manager at the time was like, oh no, I've got to wait for the right time. Let's plan it out properly. And all this stuff was going on with COVID, and they didn't want to sort of release it in the midst of all that because they were worried it would get lost. And then it got to the point where it's like, fuck, is this going to go down well at all? Because now like the original has been out for a long time, and we're kind of trying to come in and do it after a lot of bands had already done it. But we ended up sort of releasing it, and it went down really well. And I think it's nearly at 100,000 streams. I think it's maybe like 93, 94.
Yeah, it's a really good cover.
Thanks, man. But that was so much fun to do.
Yeah, would have been. Yeah,
that was recorded I think we recorded that in St Kilda, and then we recorded the vocals in like this absolutely shitty little room in Yaguna, and then the drums were.
Oh, you muted.
You muted. We missed the last part.
You muted your mic. So we'll just take it for a second.
There he is. He's back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna chuck it on like do not disturb or something.
Yeah, you cut off at the point where you're playing in a shitty place in Yaguna, and that's probably like 5 minutes from our place right now.
We're both based in I'm Bankstown, you're Bass Hill, Paul, and you're Yaguna. Are you based in?
I used to live in Yaguna.
I'm like exactly. I'm like 1 block away from Bankstown Airport. I'm in George's Hall.
Oh, there you go. Like,
oh wow,
like
Hamish, in walking distance.
Yeah.
Wow.
We would have
thought within the 5K radius of each other.
Yeah, we're on Zoom still.
Damn. Like that moonborn in your backyard.
Wow. Small world, hey.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, did you guys, like, this is a very off topic thing to ask, but did you guys make a TikTok for like your version of Bad Guy?
No, we didn't, because like I mean I'm like we're still trying to get our heads around how to do the whole TikTok thing.
Yeah.
Obviously it's blown up, but I think when we released it we weren't too aware of it.
Yeah.
Being an older band, not really down with the kids, but I mean, like, I think that's definitely a great idea. You got any suggestions or any tips?
I just noticed like a lot of people, like different groups and people out there. Like I noticed this trend of people covering like songs in different styles, and I think you would be covering it in a style which is different, and you just have to make a little TikTok that makes it look interesting and show what you've done. And Yeah, I like watching those. I've only got on the TikTok bandwagon in the last couple months, but I enjoy watching those ones because it's quite interesting seeing other people's interpretations of, pop songs in whatever kind of form it is.
Yeah, sweet. All right, man. Well, yeah, no.
Like
Definitely
that
look
probably
into it.
would have done really well around that time when we
Yeah.
actually did drop. But I'm
Yeah.
too like in the memes of TikTok.
Oh man, I don't blame you. It took me so long to kind of get my head around it. I think it was just like I don't know. I think it was just my girlfriend that kind of talked me into, looking at it. Just showing me a bunch of
Love all
random
the
stuff.
dumb videos on it.
Yeah, until it eventually I just gave into it. And then and now I've just liked all these little music pages. So I just, keep inundated, but I just see all these people, doing songs in styles of like I saw a guy the other day, he took apart that Peaches song by Justin Bieber and he did it in the style of the Strokes. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I just saw a bunch of people pull other pop songs apart and just kind of interpret it in their own, in their own styles. And I think it's really good. And I think it takes a talent to do that almost. So those videos just stand far above, a lot of other people's, little guitar videos and stuff like that.
It's almost got like a social aspect to it rather than just the musical ability as well.
Yeah, a little bit too.
I guess that's what gives it a lot of like. I've got a few mates who put some music stuff on there, and they're getting heaps of like a lot more views on there than their Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, well, I think that was the biggest realization about TikTok is if you wanted to promote everything, it's got a different strategy where I feel like Facebook and Instagram, you have to pay a certain amount to receive, the benefits of doing it or, really kind of have enough people in it, hashtag whatever hype, which TikTok's a different approach. It's like we'll take your video, we'll throw it out to the world and see what happens with it. And all of a sudden, like you'll make a TikTok account with a video, you throw it out and you'll get like a couple hundred views. And if people like that, it just bumps it up in this algorithm and you wake up the next day and you've got thousands of views on this little stupid video that you took, 10, 15 minutes to make. And you're like, this is unbelievable. I don't know really how this is possible. It's a different form of, media, but I don't know. It's worth taking a look at, I reckon, just how it distributes things.
It wouldn't hurt to try.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably the smart move at this point.
Like those videos we were making during the recording process, those VHS style ones, I reckon they're pretty much TikTok shaped and packaged.
Like behind the scenes stuff would be cool.
Oh, and everyone loves those, man. Like I love watching those with like my favorite bands and stuff like that. Everyone loves them. And they're usually the most interesting, like funny shit that happens,
Yeah.
It reminds me that people are humans and not just these mythical creatures that you idolize.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
I think just give it a go, see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, that'll be a day to see Badman Born having TikTok. That's gonna be a good thing.
We'll be thinking of you.
Yeah.
No, all the behind the scenes stuff we filmed is just like walking around Yaguna and talking shit. And
like the Leonardo DiCaprio thing where you're like, oh, I know where that is. You're like still pointing at it. Yeah. So anyway, Jordan, congrats on being sober for over a year now. How do you feel? Man. Nah, it's all right. I've been following you for a while now. And how does it feel? Yeah. How does it feel like being sober? Is it fresh? And it's a great milestone for yourself. Must be a great milestone.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I was actually quite a bad chronic alcoholic. So, and a bit of a drug addict as well. So, real huge achievement for me. And I'm sort of really proud of myself to do it, for doing it. Like I feel great. Can't really see myself ever going back to it, which is good. Obviously like quite tough starting out with it, but yeah, like sort of flying pretty high now, like feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, so definitely solid in my sobriety. So yeah, thanks for acknowledging that, man. That's really nice.
Yeah, I think I first started you about 6 months in, or you were just starting, I think, and now it's been a year later. So been following for a while now, trying to.
Yeah, sweet, man.
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
No, drinking's mad. I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
How did you
being responsible?
Yeah, like I just want to know, like, and a lot of like, for people watching this, like, how did you know? how did you stop, and how did you know in yourself like now's the time to do it, and and I suppose achieve like a year, like, and what has been the outcome of doing such, like have the feelings and overall mood, personality, like has it I'm just curious to the experience.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I was sort of, I was drinking very like quite heavily every night. I was working night shift, so I'd come home from night shift at about 3 a.m., drink until about midday, and then go to bed, wake up and go to work. And that was my routine for 3 years. And then it was just taking a massive toll on my body. My mental health was at an all-time low. It was this really sort of rock bottom low point, just engaging in all these sort of self-destructive behaviors, and it was destroying my relationship with my fiance. And I know like a couple of my close mates were quite concerned for me as well. And it basically just got to the point of, you continue doing this, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big wake up call, and it was something that I definitely needed to address, like effective immediately. And so yeah, managed to just come off it cold turkey. Had to go to, went through this whole rigmarole of being in hospital and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, had to take all these vitamin supplements and all that kind of stuff. Because if you're like an alcoholic for quite a while and you go off at cold turkey, you can have all these, really bad health repercussions. So had to go through that, and then did AA for a while. Went and did a fair couple of months of really intense counseling, and saw a psychiatrist and a psychologist, because I sort of also suffer with complex post-traumatic stress disorder as well. And the alcoholism was a way of me just self-medicating, as well as the drugs. So I had to sort of address that in order to make sure that I didn't go back to that whenever I was sort of feeling in a low point. But I had, the bands were fantastic. All my mates, super supportive. My family was great about it. So yeah, it was really hard for the sort of the first 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
But it gets easy with every week, and now I sort of couldn't be happier. Like the one thing I really do notice is I'm able to think properly, and I'm able to think clearly. I think beforehand I wasn't really able to, I guess, in terms of the band stuff, I really couldn't structure a release, I guess, the way that we're doing it now. There's so much organizing and planning and creativity involved that I was clearly just stunting myself by engaging in that kind of behavior. So
well done, man. That's like a huge achievement.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So the clarity is a massive thing, and also being healthy is actually mad. Because you feel a lot better, the mental health's a lot better, and getting into exercising, and like comparatively I probably look quite boring, but I'm really into like my audiobooks and drinking tea now, which is mad. But but also having a lot of time and that clarity to be able to think properly, develop ideas and songwriters has been a massive improvement. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that. But yeah, no, thanks for acknowledging that, guys. I haven't talked about that in an interview, so
no, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all right, mate.
Cheers.
Just thought it'd be good awareness for everyone else out there.
Yeah, and especially
thanks,
now in this like lockdown kind of period. This lockdown, I'm trying to be disciplined with myself and just not drink at all, because last lockdown, I think me and Paul were going at a bit like, and especially myself, I noticed that I was going at way too hard, and I came out of lockdown 10 kilos heavier, and I didn't want to do it this time, and just substituted it for walking, and honestly, I've cut it out now for like a month, and my body feels great.
Yeah, great work, man. Yeah, no, you definitely notice a difference.
Yeah, I think I want to stay like this too, man, because it's like now I'd like about a month ago I tried it, having a drink again, and all of a sudden the next day, like I just felt anxious, and I hadn't had that before when I wasn't, and so I was just like, I might have to just knock it on the head and just cut it out, because my brain, my body, my everything feels better when I'm certainly not on the booze.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, drink tea and then rock out on stage like Angus Young does. That's
nothing
wrong. It's nothing wrong.
That's something else. That's something else that I noticed as well. was, my routine before I'd go on was 3 beers and 3 tequila shots.
Oh wow.
And
That's like everyone. That's like some confidence.
that was my sweet spot, because tequila was like my warm-up drink. And the beers sort of just helped settle the nerves. So
Yeah.
Doing the first show back like dead sober was pretty daunting. But it's as sort of like alcohol does the senses. It's when you're up on stage and you're feeling that sort of high and that adrenaline, you're feeling it a lot more when you're sober, which is both terrifying but also exciting as well, because you get a lot out of that. So so that was something else that I noticed. So I've sort of managed to stave it off now, where I'm not getting as nervous before I go on stage. But I mean, as Paul said before, I think talking about that charity gig, like I was fucking terrified before I went on that.
Oh shit, really? Wow.
Yeah, dude. I was like, oh shit, how, like, and it's like as soon as I sing the first note, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it's like the lead up to that point, you're walking up the steps of the stage, being like, oh fuck, I bet I'm gonna trip over or do something stupid and like make a fool of myself.
Especially when it like introduces like the Godfather sitting in middle as well. You're like, oh shit, did they really do? It's like no. It's like no. Anyways, your new single Fallout. How what was the idea behind it? Was there an idea or a theme behind the song?
Yeah, so there's definitely lyrical things behind it. But I mean, Voya, do you want to take the musical aspect? Because you were sitting on this riff for about 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah,
we can speak about this song chronologically.
Yeah, it's a different one. Yeah, that's for sure.
Man, it was like this riff after the first stuff like I learned to record at home. After the first Badman Born EP, pretty much, this was like I think the first or second demo idea that I had, but and we used to have a song to it, but it didn't really go anywhere. It was just like heaps of riffs, just the whole song, and then the vocals we had at that point were just as high as they could be through the whole song, and it just wasn't that good. So every time we were kind of working with stuff, even when we took it to the producer, he's like, nah, it's not a good enough song, which I don't think it was either, now that I look back on it. And then working with that producer, so his name was Kato Kandwala, and he did Pretty Reckless and he was the main producer of that. He made them big. Wow. And he had a motorbike accident and he died, so that was during the time of it. Yeah, so that's sad, but that's a different story for another time. And from him, I learned that a song is not just a collection of things that you think are cool. Like, it, as cliche as it sounds, it has to move and feel natural, and everything has to connect and feel like one story or one audio book, whatever you want to call it. It has to feel right. And after all that, and when we got Jordan in the band and decided to go heavy, I was like, I'm going to revisit this again and see if I can make the music fit what we're doing now. And then it just worked. Like the first day I tried it, I put it together, add some different parts, and the instrumental part of it just worked. And then that's when I got Jordan to kind of do the rest of the stuff, and he can elaborate now if he'd like to. Because that's, after that, I just let it go. I'm like, I'm happy with it now, wherever it goes.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it seemed to get heavier when Jordan came in, that's for sure, because I heard your earlier stuff and now it brings that vibe in. It's a good thing. It's changed. It's made a lot of good things happen.
Yeah,
sorry. I just wanted to. You go, and then I'll ask after. I felt like I cut you off.
I just was going to say that before we were kind of a bit more classic rock oriented, and now we're into kind of your Avenged Sevenfold, Asking Alexandria, Bring Me the Horizon, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Because we've always loved that, but it didn't work for the band before. And now we're like, this aspect of those influences work. Let's really lean into that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So when you two are like, and the whole band, I suppose, are writing music, does it always seem to come in that way where you write the music first and then kind of add the melody later, or do you do it in the other way and Jordan comes in with a melody and then you add the music to it?
And predominantly at the moment, it's been music first.
Yeah.
And we'll get the music first, then start melody ideas, and then once the melody ideas are strong, we'll reshape the music to fit the melody again.
Wow.
Because like we used to not reshape it for the melody, and I think that's been the biggest turning point in making them better songs. Like everything does have to complement the melody, otherwise it just doesn't hit the message as hard.
Yeah. Wow. You're one of the first bands I think I've ever like asked that do it in the, you know, music first, not melody. Like a lot of other groups take it to, you know, do, you know, work the other way around, that's really interesting to kind of hear.
Yeah, I don't know. The only band, I don't know who, I know Tool definitely does it. I'm not sure who else. I'm sure there'd be heaps though that do it, but a lot of it is melody, because a lot of bands that write it usually is the singer, I guess, writing with chords and then takes it to the band and the band shapes that. But I think Jordan and I work very well in a melodic aspect and have similar ideas. So that's why it's kind of works smoothly when I bring it to him, because we're almost hitting the same thing we want to happen.
Yeah.
And that's just luck. So
yeah, for sure.
That's good. That's a good thing to have. Not many bands have that chemistry.
And Jordan, what's the songwriting process been like for you? I suppose, you know, writing, you know, the melodies and stuff. Do you find it, do you have to sit on it for a long time, or does it come fast? Like how does it work for you?
Yeah, it's kind of both. I mean, I absolutely love working with Voyer, and the fact that he's, you know, this production wizard as well and has his own studio that we can actually write in, you know, free of charge and sort of all that kind of stuff. You know, is so exciting. And you know, I think when we're both like in the zone and we're in the studio firing off each other, like it's one of the most exciting things for me personally, like as a musician and a singer. Just, you know, having that moment where you'll come up with a harmony and you'll both go, oh fuck, and then you'll just listen to it on repeat like 20 times, just like, you know, basking in your own essence kind of thing. Like that's like I absolutely love that process. And like I've got my own little studio set up here, but I'm currently in an apartment in Penrith and can't really make too much noise. So I can't, like, I can write like all the music, but I can't really record vocals. But yeah, so which as a vocalist is pretty frustrating. But but like I can still sort of write and do like, you know, melody lines and stuff like that. I just can't belt. But yeah, like having that experience, and it took Voyer and I a little bit of work to get to that point where our chemistry was really solid. Just because we were sort of working through the sound that we wanted to go towards, and figuring out how we were going to add our own style. And so, but like once we got that chemistry, everything just flowed really naturally. And so yeah, it's definitely exciting. And with sort of him coming to me with these instrumentals, yeah, like honestly, it's quite 50-50. Like some of the time we'll have to try different, you know, a couple of different things to see what works best. And then other times it'll be like, you know, first time I hear it, I go, fuck, I know exactly what I'm putting here. So yeah, it's kind of 50-50. And then if I'm but then there's a third option. Then if I'm really stuck, I'll be like, fuck man, what do you think? And you know, he might have an idea that he'll put forward and we'll build off. But I think, you know, one of the things that you know, works so well with us is the fact that we're both quite open-minded. I don't think there's ever been a suggestion that either of us have gone, nah, that's shit. It's very much, okay, let's try it, build off it, and then we'll know, then we'll know if it's shit or not. But it's that openness of always being willing to try something and flesh it out properly before deciding whether to sack it or not. And I think that works a lot in our favor.
Yeah. As a singer, do you like bank ideas? Like, do you sit at home sometimes and just like, you know, open up your phone, you know, recording and just kind of put the bunch of stuff in there? So like, you know, when the time comes that, you know, one of the other guys has an idea, you've kind of got something in the back of your mind. You're like, okay, that would probably work with this, and go back to it. Do you do that, or you're more?
Yeah. It's not much, but I've definitely done it, and I do it with lyrics a lot. You know, if I'll be, you know, walking like on a walk and I'll be like, oh fuck, that's mad, and I'll, you know, have to sort of write it down in my notes. Not so much with vocal melodies. I personally like to write over the top of instrumentals,
Yeah.
or over the top of chords, as opposed to just, you know, coming up with a vocal melody and then sending it to someone to build something around. But that said, like, it has happened. Like it has happened. It just doesn't really happen as much as you might think it would.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's all like, I love asking people this question because everyone seems to be different. Like everyone's like process, you know, everyone, what works for someone won't work for another person. You know, it's all kind of you know, really up to the individual how they do it or how the group does it. But it's interesting how you guys do it, because you kind of going down, like, you know, all the other bands seem to do it a bit, you know, kind of the same. You can see similar patterns, but this is a kind of an unorthodox way of doing it, which makes me really interested, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like it's kind of fascinating to see that you're doing it, you know, from the music side of it first, which is cool. And do you like, Jordan, are you an instrumentalist? Like, do you play instruments as well as sing?
Not very well. So like I can play it like enough like keys, bass, and guitar to sort of help me write, and I know my way around a drum kit in terms of writing for it. But I mean, yeah, like not not very well. Like enough to get my ideas across, but not enough to like put on an actual release.
Why are singers good drummers too? I've noticed that, like, a lot of singers seem to have like an almost natural feel for you know, rhythm and playing percussion instruments, where and drummers can usually be good singers as well. I've noticed a bit of a crossover there.
It's funny you say that, because like that's definitely a thing. Like I know like quite a lot of singers who like either started as drummers, or just, you know, have a natural affinity to drums. But I think it's possibly to do with vocal phrasing and just that being such an important part of singing. So that idea of timing is really important, and playing with space as well, in terms of your timing. So I think there might be some connection there, but I might be wrong. Boy, do you want to elaborate on that?
I personally think that every musician should learn drums a bit, because rhythm, and the way I think singers have the hardest job, because the way I look at the categories of it all when writing or when looking at bands or whatever, the singer has to know lyrics, he has to know melody pitch wise, and they have to know rhythm as well, where a guitarist and bass player only harmony as well. That's 4 aspects. Guitarists and bass players, they just have to know rhythm and pitch. They don't really need to remember words. Drummers are mainly rhythm. So a singer is kind of doing every aspect of music within singing. Yeah. Like, you've got these 4 elements that you have to do all the time. So I feel like that, when you go to drums, makes it easier as a singer. Not saying that all singers are actually good drummers, because good drummers are really hard to come by, a proper good drummer. But singing, I think, is the hardest out of everything. And then you have to perform as well and not be boring. It's a lot to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
And how much of it is natural and how much is built upon, do you reckon? Like, this question, I suppose, goes to you, Jordan. Like, how much of your singing ability came quite easy, and then how much of it do you reckon you had to build on, if you had to you know, give it, like, if you had to give it a percentage? Like, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I never really had like a natural talent for it, and I've always been envious of people who do.
Well, that gives me hope.
Yeah, bro. So I started just doing, you know, pub rock stuff, just literally shouting and screaming into a microphone, no real discernible melodies or ideas, very percussive style of singing. And then when I did a couple of things, you know, for a few metal bands and all that kind of stuff. And then when I actually auditioned for Carmario, which is my symphonic metal band, back in 2014, I got the part and realized, hey, I don't actually know how to sing properly. How the fuck am I going to do this? Because, you know, like symphonic metal typically is very classical based vocally. And so the guitarist of Carmario actually put me onto this opera coach, classical teacher, who I spent 2 years with, and she just completely redefined everything I knew about music and singing, and then helped me sort of bring those foundations of classical across into like the rock and metal world. And then I was with her for 2 years, and then a lot of it was just consistency, practice, and I think, you know, trying within a lot of different genres. I think I mentioned before the times that I was kind of doing a lot of different bands and stuff like that. That definitely helped as well. And, you know, I guess with the influences, I was always a big fan of the big 80s metal singing. I think I saw the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg when I was like, when I was like 10 or 11. And that was like, I want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do. And that kind of threw me into the world of metal and looking up all those big singers, like, you know, Sebastian Bach and obviously like Milyanko from Steelheart, who was the voice of that movie. So trying to mimic them a lot and trying to use that classical training to kind of create those sort of sounds. So yeah, it was a really long process for me to get to, I guess, where I am now. But yeah, definitely not natural talent. It was a lot of hard work.
Wow, that's good to know, man. Just on a little side note there, have you ever been to church and, you know, done the Mark Wahlberg, you know, the scene of the
Hallelujah?
Yeah.
Nah, I haven't. Never been game enough. And I don't go to church, so.
Oh no, but just to do that, if I could sing, that's what I'd want to do. Just one time, just go to a random church and just flex that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you noticed it's been easier now, like singing, like when you were just shouting and stuff, like would your throat hurt? Like would you lose your voice for a couple of days? And now do you seem to return?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and sort of doing it, not doing it properly can, you know, be quite damaging for your voice. But I was very much just, fuck it, man, rock and roll, like get drunk and scream into a microphone, man. Yeah, so in the early days, it was a lot of trial and error and trying a lot of things that probably weren't the right way of doing things. But I mean, you know, it's all that trial and error process of finding ways of doing it that don't hurt, being like, okay, that's probably the proper way to do it, and then going from there. But I think, you know, having a good teacher definitely helped. And I think, you know, it's really important if you're looking to going into singing to go down that route of having a vocal coach that understands your style and knows what you want to get out of it. Because it completely reshaped the way I thought about music in general. And gave me a new appreciation for, I guess, the art of singing, if you want to call it that.
Wow, man, it's amazing. And like now going forward, have you guys been able to write music? I suppose I know you're in Penrith, but like able to kind of build on little tracks on like Logic or Ableton Pro Tools, whatever you're using, and send them to each other. If you use Lockdown for, you know, I suppose a writing period.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Boy's obviously got his full studio. Ned, the other guitarist, has his own little setup, and I've got my own little setup. And it was actually, I think, you know, a couple of days ago that we actually created the album demos folder in our drive. So Boy's chucked a whole lot of ideas in there, as has Ned. So we're definitely capable of it. We haven't done it recently just because we've been planning out and executing the release of these singles, but I mean, yeah, I think having our own setups definitely helps, and we'll be able to co-write in isolation. That said, it's always better when you're in the room with people, I feel. But we definitely have technology on our side in that regard.
Cool, man.
I must say, I like the initial part of songwriting to be alone, which I know a lot of people like to take an infant idea and bring it to it, but I like to paint most of the picture because I feel like a lot of people can't understand what you actually want out of your idea unless you can show them more of it.
Yeah.
I like to have, like Jordan, I like to have like 70 to 80% of an idea done, start to finish. And then I'd like to take it to other people to work on. Like the next song that we're going to be releasing, that was, most of that was just whipped up really quick because we were like, oh, we need a song with this kind of tempo. And then we're like, kind of got boring at the end. And then we took another demo that was pretty much done and made the outro work of it. And it's become this beast of a song that we're like, we don't even need those other parts now. This is one complete work. So that's why it's nice having massive complete ideas, because then you can just cut parts and retune it, put different key changes, different tempos, and you're just building a library of ideas after.
How do you do that? Like, does that takes a lot of persistence, man? Like to sit there and you're tracking, you know, like this huge thing. Like how how often do you get frustrated when you're sitting in that? Like, or is it just come easy for you?
I don't know. I just enjoy sitting. I think it's nice having a setup where, like, I've got it set up to the point now where when I want to start demoing or whatever, I just turn everything on and every instrument's ready to record, and
Oh, cool.
and then I just sit there and wait for ideas to hit me. I know that sounds like mad, like weird, mad scientist-ish and whatever, but it's the best. Yeah, I think you have to leave yourself open. You can't be worrying about what's happening later and you've got some other shit on in like half an hour. You have to
like
dedicate.
fishing.
It's exactly like fishing. You just have to sit there, you throw the data, and you just hope something's there. And when it comes, you have to be ready to record it, because I don't even want to think about how many ideas I've had that I was like, yeah, I'll voice memo that later or some shit, and it's gone forever.
Yeah.
But like, this is like the next level of voice memoing for me. Instead of just voice memoing a melody, I will map out the drum parts, the bass and the guitars and keyboards and everything in like a couple of hours.
Fuck, that's awesome, man. Do you take breaks, or you're just in it? It's
I do now, because I've ruined my back and I wasn't getting it. I used to sit there and do ideas till like 8 a.m. and that started really ruining me. Not sleeping, it ruined me bad.
Yeah.
I was just doing random bits of jobs that I could to like, this is when I was working in a studio in Homebush, and I was just, man, literally any random job I would get that would do the hours of after, like any recording work, any guitar lessons and shit like that. And then I just sit around till like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every night trying to record demos. And I just have folders from those years of just random stuff.
Wow.
But it's not as good as, like, you need a schedule as well, because it does burn you out and you just start making crap. You need to be inspired by something. You need new things you need to do things other than music as well to inspire you.
Yeah. Nice. I'm glad.
And I thought, like, if all I did was just sit there and record ideas and try writing, it would get better, but it just burnt me out massively.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was starting to think you were superhuman if you were just able to like sit there and map out these whole things. And
it fully drove me crazy. It ruined me.
Oh wow.
Well, that's No, sorry. I was just gonna say when we wrote the 5 singles for this year, like we were writing it halfway through last year, and we were going from like 8 p.m. until like 7 a.m. or something ridiculous.
Yeah. And every night at like 1 a.m. I'm like, all right, I'm turning it off now, and then we'd get some sick idea. Like, fuck you, I have to finish. That's when I started being like, no, I have to get my sleep schedule in order, and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
But this time it's different. Now I'm gonna be strict about it.
Yeah.
Nice. So what can the world expect from you guys, like coming out of lockdown? Like what's the plan put in place?
Yeah, look, ideally we'd be able to play shows and tour again. We've still got 2 singles remaining from the original 5 that we were going to put out this year.
Yeah.
Because of delays and stuff like that with COVID, we might have to move one of them to next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving forward, we're looking at doing an album for next year, and hopefully, if the world opens up again, we'll be able to tour it and go around and play all our favorite places. Because I think it's been 2 years since we've played interstate, and we've got a lot of friends that we miss. So we're going to be French kissing all of them on the mouths when we see them. I think all the boys. So, but yeah, ideally, if everything sorts itself out, touring, album, and probably more music videos, which will be fun.
Nice, very nice. Paul, have you got any kind of like final questions?
Just before I wrap up, do you guys give any good advice to any beginner band or a band that wants to start up? Is there any good advice you've given?
I would say,
yeah.
Do you want to go first, Jordan, or me?
No, you go first.
Birthday boy privileges.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing that worked, this is just my personal experience, like songwriting wise, and everything changed when like we learned how to songwrite and actually be able to have like actually make something, and everyone has the ability to like you don't need to spend much at all you need is a really strong laptop, a few good plugins, like, and you can make the best sounding demos for yourself if you learn that, and that way you'll hear back exactly. And I think that's a very modern way of doing it now, because the rehearsal, like obviously you need to rehearse on that, but you need good songs.
Yeah.
Like we know bands that have done like 5 gigs and they've got the best festivals and tours because they wrote good songs.
Yeah.
And I know bands that have rehearsed their dicks off forever and they just haven't wrote a song that's as good. And it's worth investing in your songwriting and being able to demo out stuff for sure, because it's fun as well. It's just mad. It's very consuming in a good way. So that's my one piece of advice.
I think that's great advice, man.
That's a good. Yeah, it is. It's really good.
And
So
Jordan, that
yeah, I kind of I sort of like really get a lot out of the 3 Ps: practice, patience, and perseverance. As cliche and lame as that sounds, so like I think you have to practice. You're never going to get good at anything if you don't spend time honing your craft. That's like really important, and it's it can be frustrating at times, but you just got to persist with it. Patience, obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. You need to allow yourself that time to build those skills and that sort of knowledge on how to do it. And then perseverance. I mean, there's been so many times where I've just wanted to give up because it just never felt like it was going anywhere, or it didn't feel as rewarding. Like the input wasn't matching the output. But I mean, you persevere, and it's you make those steps along the way, and I think that's really important for people to learn. So yeah, I guess practice, patience, and perseverance would be my advice to younger bands.
I've got one more that I want to chuck in quickly.
No,
don't trust people too easily as well.
Yeah.
Know your worth and believe in yourself fully, and don't let other people take you for a fucking ride.
Is that in terms of like managers?
Yeah. Not specific. Also, like, you have to remember that now musicians have a lot more power than they did, and you don't need other people as much as they will make you believe you do. You can do a lot on your own if you're hungry enough and you put in enough, as Jordan said.
Yeah, and that's another thing is there's so much knowledge and sort of technology out there. A lot of the bands that are doing really well are taking on multiple roles. So I mean, there's it's kind of not how it was in the past, where you could just be a shit hot musician and sort of get quite far just putting in the hard yards. Like these days, you kind of also have to know your way around managing and like third party liaising, social media, marketing, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, like there's so much knowledge out there. And I think, reading up on all that shit properly definitely helps. It's definitely helped us, in terms of like just being aware of what roles that we can do ourselves and what roles we need other people to do. So I think, knowledge is power. So definitely use it to your advantage.
Well, man, I think that is great. I think all the advice you gave there is, great. And I think there's a lot of like wisdom in there, and I hope somebody, listens to this and takes it on board and applies it to their, to their own life. Because do you guys really think that you need a manager for a lot of things like nowadays in this kind of world? Like what, somebody was asking me the other day about do managers really play a big role in music anymore? And I just wanted to, throw the question to you.
I think they do.
Yeah,
if they're a good manager. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say it's a tough question. It's a tough question because it depends on your knowledge and how much work you're willing to take on yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you know your way around the management role and understand the industry jargon and all that kind of stuff, and are able to, I guess, represent yourself in a way like comparative to like how a manager would, and you're willing to take on that role, then great, you can probably do it yourself. But I mean, like that, it is a massive role to take on, and it does help having someone do it for you, especially someone who has your best interests at heart and looks after you and actually knows what they're doing. So yeah, like I definitely think, managers are still relevant. I think that it's still like an important role that needs filling, but it's probably maybe not as important as it once was, but definitely still like a vital part of being in a band. It just depends whether or not you want to upskill yourself and take it on, because it's a massive responsibility and it is quite grueling.
Yeah. All right, guys, any final notes before we wrap this up? Thank you for coming on as well today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Good talking to you.
Yeah, it's been fun. I guess the only thing I'd want to mention is that we've just released our new single Fallout, so check that out. YouTube, Spotify, it's everywhere if you haven't already. Happy birthday, Voya, you old cunt. 30 and wise. So he's now actually qualified to give wisdom to younger bands as a 30-year-old.
I felt quite different this interview, I must say.
Yeah.
Feel like the beacon of light.
Nice.
No, I'm just happy to do this interview with you guys because I've seen you for a bit and I can't remember who I spoke to on Insta a while ago, but it's nice seeing other people from this area into this sort of stuff. It's nice having other Westies.
Yeah, for sure.
Except,
I just can't believe you didn't come on, man. Like we were doing it in my garage here, and we're like
cool.
when you said you live near the airport, we're walking distance away. Like we're like actually like 5 minutes walking. You wouldn't even have to drive. So hopefully, I don't know when the world opens up.
Yeah, we'll have to do it in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, I think this has been really good, actually. Like, this is one of the first Zoom interviews we've done, and I think this has went really well. So, cheers.
Yeah, definitely. Not had a lot of fun talking to you boys. Like, thanks for having us on.
No worries. Thanks for saying yes. It was great. Thanks, guys.